Welcome and really pleased to be with you, especially to talk about a subject that is very close to my heart. And one of the first memories that came to me was one where when I started coming back into knowledge. I was raised in knowledge, and in my teens I had to go and explore the world for myself, and then return in my late teens um, to Baba. And one of the first meetings I had when I returned was reconnection with Daddy Janki in a big way. And it was this that really started my exploration of this topic of the heart. And it actually started from, a big letter that I'd written her. So she would ask me to write to her on a monthly basis. And I felt this was new, but I felt that I needed to reveal myself to her. And so I started writing, and many tears would come as a result of my writing. I'd be crying and crying. And I could see that there was something unburdening inside of me as I started to give and reveal myself to Baba. And I feel that if there's one effort that has really helped me strengthen and develop a relationship with myself and Baba more, it is this connection of having and maintaining deep honesty with him. And so I wanted to share with you some of the experiences that I've had with myself in my effort making journey, some of the experiences that I'm seeing today in the souls that are coming for retreats at the centers, and particularly at the lighthouse. Daddy's vision for the lighthouse was always for the space to be a healing space. And this is such a wonderful benefit that we can give to all Brahmins, to all souls, but particularly beneficial for Brahmins, because at every step of our journey, there is some level of cleaning up that needs to take place in our hearts. And so, yeah, I feel, because of the experiences I've gained over running retreats over so many years at the lighthouse, there has been much learning. There has been a lot of insight. There's been a lot of practical ways that we can begin our journey and deepen our honesty. So, this is what I really wanted to share with you. And before I got into our sharing, I just wanted to share an inspiration. And this is something that I had read, but is so clear that this is what is happening at this time. And that is that what I am seeing, not just in myself, but in the souls that I'm connected to, whether they're young in Gyan, whether they're old in Gyan, what is coming up for most souls is very old patterns and wounds. So the old is surfacing in our lives in ways that is creating a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, and almost needing us to have a different level of effort within ourselves. And I think, I know somebody who is very close to me, who's been in Gyan for, 45 years. And this soul has gone through such an immense amount of depression in the last 2 years. And it's taken 2 years of pain to reach a point where the soul is ready to face what is in the heart. Because until we're ready to face what is in the heart, healing cannot take place. And Baba cannot really help us. We can we can be supported through some vibrations, some good wishes, but actually until we're able to face what is in our hearts, there is no moving forward. And so this aspect of heart cleansing is such a big topic. And I think it's a really important topic for our time now, because a lot of the illnesses that are erupting are very old illnesses and they have to erupt. So I wanted to share a short passage from a Murli. And this is very short, but I think when you listen to it, you will feel Baba really making clear where we are in the cycle. It is probably already clear to us, but Baba really showing us what it is. So here goes the passage. So Baba says, just as at the end, all illnesses emerge, in the same way, because this is the time of completion, all the variety of weaknesses of everyone will be revealed. So I'll just repeat that. Just as at the end, all illnesses emerge, in the same way, because this is the time of completion, all the variety of weaknesses of everyone will be revealed. At present, you have just seen one wave, but you will see all the many other waves. It is essential to go to the extreme. Only when there is the extreme can there be the end. Whatever weaknesses you have within, they will not be able to remain hidden. They will definitely be revealed in one form or another. However, you should have the feeling that everyone should benefit. You are the bestowers of blessings, and so your every thought should be for the benefit of every soul. There will be many other waves. As one wave finishes, another will emerge. All of these are byplots for entertainment, for making everyone's status very clear. This will continue to happen. There will have to be some amazing scenes. On the one hand, new souls will appear to be racing ahead. On the other hand, souls who become tired and come to a standstill will be revealed. On the third side, the weaknesses that still remain after a long period of time will also be revealed. It is nothing new. However, there should be both the vision of mercy and a feeling of mercy. So this was from the booklet that was given out, I think, on the 75th anniversary, Good Wishes and Pure Feelings. And this little passage was from the 25th of June, 1977, just in case anyone wanted the date. 25th of June, 1977. I'm just going to copy this and just paste it into the chat. Oh, it doesn't allow me to share. Okay, never mind. So the 25th of June, 1977. So I wanted to set the scene for today's talk around old weaknesses and patterns that are emerging inside of us. So those that have been forgotten or those that we have not been able to see clearly. So maybe we feel the ache and the pain of it, but we're not able to see its face very clearly. And what is the type of effort that we need to make in order to reveal ourselves to Baba so that we can gain his help and support? And one of the inspirations I'd taken was I have a collection of classes by Dadi, And Daddy has always spoken in big ways about the process of cleansing the heart in a very deep way. And the one quality that stands out that establishes help from Baba and allows me to achieve closeness with Baba. And this one quality is the quality of honesty. And so I wanted to explore this first quality in today's talk. It's a quality that we're obviously very familiar with when we start this journey, because when we start this journey, Baba gives us a guarantee, doesn't he? He says, if you tell me everything with absolute honesty of everything that has happened in your past life, so this is the life before Baba, then I will give you 50%. I will take the burden of 50%. And that 50%, the other 50%, you will settle, but I will give you this guarantee. And so honesty in itself creates a contract, but honesty also creates a huge level of trust with Baba. So when we are finding ourselves in pain, if we are finding ourselves suffering, and we're unable to face ourselves, then the one quality we need more than any other quality is this quality of honesty and deep cleansing. And so this is always a good checking point to see that I may be following all of the directions being given by Baba. So I may wake up for Amrit Vela, I may go to the Murli, I may come to evening class, but there is less power and less happiness in the soul because there is something affecting the soul. And whatever is affecting the soul is deep. And the depth of whatever is affecting the soul, this normal effort, or this, it's elevated effort, but this regular effort is not enough. And there is a certain level of effort that we have to step into in order to reveal the wound properly. And I often find that in the retreats that we run, I feel it is harder and harder for souls to face their hearts. And a big part is because a lot of what is coming up is old. It's very painful and it's very tired. And right now, even at the lighthouse, we have many souls. So we have 6 or 7 souls. All of them have come because there is either some health crisis or something that they haven't been able to deal with over a long period of time. And so it's wonderful that Baba's giving us this special time to see ourselves. But I have to also say that when we're going through this level of internal settlement, then one of the hardest things is to face ourselves, right? It's not easy to face our hearts, is it? If it was easy, then we would have reached our karma teeth stage quickly. But there is a level of, I guess, insight that we need in order to face the heart. But one of the things I've seen also that when you come into a retreat space and Baba's love holds the soul, then Baba's love begins to work at a deeper level. But even then, the soul needs more power to face the heart. And the first quality, even ahead of honesty, is courage. The courage to be honest is necessary. And in the experiences I've had, I feel that Baba is very pleased with the smallest step of effort that we can make when we are feeling that something big is affecting us. And this is really important because taking small steps is the key to opening our heart. And I was with a group a couple of weeks ago, and someone asked the question, I am going through a lot in my life, but I don't know where to start. And I thought this was a really interesting question that came up. I don't know where to start. And the soul revealed also that they have been carrying this pain for the last year. And when we carry this pain in our hearts over a long period of time, then one of the things that begins to happen is it begins to affect other parts of our life. And all of a sudden, because we are affected in many different parts and we become very sensitive to situations, then actually everything seems to get worse and worse. And we're not able to look inside to know how to be honest, or how to bring the floodlight into our hearts. So initially, there's a need to bring a floodlight into our hearts, and then there's a need to go into and to create a spotlight. And when I think of our relationship with Baba, particularly when we are healing, then when we go to the surgeon needs to know what the symptoms are and what the pain is and where the problem is. And then he can perform the surgery. He can't perform the surgery until we have revealed where the pain is. And so, a big part of our responsibility in speaking to the Father and receiving Baba's help is the courage to reveal what's in our hearts. And I want to share something with you that it's a small exercise, but I feel that this exercise has really benefited me and many others in taking that first step when I haven't been able to face my heart over a long period of time. Then what do I need to do to start facing my heart so I can understand what is going on inside? Yeah. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly. And if you've got a pen and paper handy, then feel free to try this. It's a very quick exercise, but it's a really important way to inspect the heart at the first level. Yeah. So give me a second and I'm going to share my screen with you. So I was never gifted being an artist in my life. But this is a very simple diagram. And in the middle of the page, you can see a star. So that is you. And then outside, you can see these lines and these little circles. Yeah. And these lines and these circles represent a situation in your life that is creating heaviness in your hearts. Yeah. So if we think about, so this exercise is called the clarity star. And it's a really simple exercise that just allows you to untangle what is going on inside at an emotional level in terms of what is affecting the soul. And often, if you start with what is what situations or events or scenes are creating heaviness in the soul, then you will be able to identify maybe there's two, maybe there's three, maybe there's four, maybe there's more. Yeah. So that's the first step, is just to put everything down on paper. And this is a really important step because it just maps out what is pulling the soul or what is influencing the soul. Okay. And when you've done this, then it's important to look at what you've written down in each of these bubbles and ask yourself one question. What is the intensity of each of these situations or scenes in my life? An intensity you can score out of five. Five being the most intense, one being the least intense. So on these lines, you can just mark down one, five, whatever it is for you for that particular situation. Yeah. And one may be health, another may be an old weakness, whatever it is for you, whatever is coming up for you right now that is influencing you, that's what is important. Yeah. And one of the things that I find interesting about this exercise is that A, it's easy, but B, it gives us some level of insight. And that level of insight is one small step of honesty that I can take. Because sometimes it's not easy just to dive into our hearts and figure out what we're facing. Because there's the stuff we know about, if we've made a mistake and it's playing on our minds, or there's a situation that's affecting us, it's easy to know. But when we start to look at our past, or we're settling some sort of karmic account, or we're being triggered from a traumatic pattern in our lives, then actually all we will feel inside of us is disruption, huge eruptions. And so it's not necessarily clear enough immediately. So when you go through something like this, you can find out what is the biggest thing. And often what I find is that the source that is the biggest, the most intense, that is the root. That is often the root. And and the question to ask yourself is, if that five, which is the most intense situation you're facing, turns into a one, what happens to all of the other situations? And if the answer to that question is that everything else reduces, then you know what you need to pay attention to. So this process is the floodlight, what is pulling the soul. And then we move into the spotlight, identifying the most intense. And that's enough to start with, because it allows me to go to Baba and say, Baba, I need to be honest about something here. I may not know what I need to be honest about, and that's fine. But you can put it in front of Baba and say, Baba, I know I need to be honest about something, but I just don't know what, because that in itself is honest. And this is how Baba really responds to us when we're able to make even the smallest amount of effort in facing our hearts. And so I think this is a really important process to start before you can go into the deeper level of questions that you need to ask yourself about this situation. Yeah. And we know on this Brahmin journey, Baba's taught us that the root cause of all of our suffering lies in attachment in some form, whether it's an expectation, whether on others or ourselves, whether it's a desire of some form of control or wanting to be right, or whatever it is that we're attached to, that's the root. And that's where we need to get to in our honesty with Baba. But sometimes we can't see that clearly. Sometimes we need more power before we can really become detached from whatever it is that is affecting us. And that's fine, because I really believe Baba gives us the time to do this work to our capacity. But the way he responds is genuinely with a sincerity that says, Baba, I'm ready to face, and not just face, but to own my inner world. And until we're ready to really own our inner world, I don't think we can start the healing process. We can continue, you know, going to yoga, doing, reading the Murli, but actually we can't work at the deeper level of releasing old wounds or healing old wounds. And this is the level of effort that is necessary now. And the only way that we can begin to strengthen, so that we can start to see, because sometimes when we move into a reflection process in the retreats, I often ask souls whether they can do it or not. And so I'll be very open and I'll say, so for those of you who have been doing these reflective questions, how did you find it? Did any of you feel heavy when you started doing these reflective questions? Interesting. And quite a few people would put their hands up. Yeah, because that's an interesting response. Do I feel heavy when I'm about to face my heart? And that's just simply a sign that I need more power, more courage, because I'm not ready to face my heart. And so if I'm not ready to face my heart, I can't do the inner work, but I can do another form of effort. And that form of effort is to sit with Baba, is to sit in solitude and to start making a level of more intense effort of being in remembrance, not trying to remember the situation or the scenes that are creating sorrow, but just sitting in an open hearted way. And that is, Baba, show me what I need to see in the mirror of my heart. And this has worked wonders. I know in one situation that came up for me in COVID, and I was fortunate enough to have left work and that I needed to go into silence for because I could feel that my body was being affected. I didn't know what was happening inside. There was a huge amount of pain. And I sat with Baba and I said, Baba, I know I need to be honest about something, but I don't know what. And that was enough. And there was an intention, A, to be sincere with Baba, but B, to really understand what was going on. But during that pain, I felt that the one thing that I need to absolutely pay attention to is a routine that is consistent. And in this routine, you will find, and I would sit every 2 hours. I think back then, Mohini Ben had given the instruction to sit in remembrance every 2 hours for half an hour. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to be in silence. I couldn't go out, didn't use the phone, shut everything down. And I would sit every 2 hours for half an hour, every 2 hours for half an hour. And what began to happen inside was what I can describe as an amplification of the wound. So in the passage that I read, Baba says, in order for the illness to end, it has to move into its most extreme form. And in order for it to move into its most extreme form, I have to sit in this furnace where I'm trying to connect with Baba, but actually the eruption is growing louder and louder and more intense. And it is at this point that actually many souls begin to fall away. They think my yoga isn't working. I can't connect with Baba. And they leave their routines. And this is the most important thing, that actually now more than anything, we have to stick with it because the amplification of this old wound is taking place. And it has to reach a point where it is ready to leave you. It wants to leave you, but it needs to amplify to leave you. And when I'd gone through this process, after a week of silence, there was a huge release, a release of tears that followed such a profound love. And it was almost like a new life had started for me. And I felt that I'd really understood what Baba meant by giving myself special time and being open hearted and sincere in sitting with him in silence and just allowing his energy to work inside and do what it needs to do. And this year, I have worked with souls that have been going through very similar things in their life. And it's incredible how this wave has erupted across the Brahmin family, where there are many souls that are going through very old patterns that are erupting at the moment, that are creating a loss of faith in themselves, in the drama, in their practice, in their connection with Baba. But this level of cleansing is essential, is necessary. And there is a certain way in which we can approach it. But that first step of revealing myself to Baba is to sit and spend time in remembrance. If I'm not able to sit and ask myself honest, reflective questions, let me sit in a furnace of remembrance. Let me draw on his power and let me amplify the wound, because only when it amplifies can it let go. And this year there was a soul that had been in Gyan for about 4 years, that had come and had made a big mistake on the journey. And really, when the soul faced herself, there was it unearthed a lot of patterns of trauma from her childhood. And this was a really interesting scene for me to face with this soul, because I had to guide this soul through this healing process of sitting and getting to a point where she could not tolerate any more the pain that was taking place in her heart. And there was a day when she called me. So this was 10 days into her routine. She called me and she said, "I can't do this anymore." And I said, "Okay, no problem. Don't punish yourself. Just relax. If you need to rest, rest. But come to meditation tomorrow evening." And I sat with Baba and I said, "Baba, what do we do?" Because I'd never taken anyone through this process before. And Baba said, "Tell that soul." In my head, I thought, I need to tell this soul that whatever you do, just speak to Baba when you get to this point and say, "Baba, you hold on to me no matter what." And that's the point we get to when we've done everything we can and we're at that cliff edge and we're about to fall and Baba catches us, right? And on the Friday, she came to the meditation session and I said to her, I said, "No matter what, in your meditation this evening, just say, 'Baba, hold on to me, no matter what happens.'" Yeah. And she sat for meditation, and we do evening meditations at the Lighthouse online. And then she called me at 10 o'clock at night and she said, "I've been crying and crying and crying nonstop." And the first question I asked her was, "What did you feel? Were there tears of peace afterwards? Was it a release? Or was it love? So was it peace or was it love?" A very specific question. And she said it was peace. And she said, "I felt deep peace and I cried so much." And I said, "Wow, this is incredible." But I also felt that the soul needed the next level of healing, which is that underneath all pain is love. So the return to love is really, really important in our healing journey. And the thought had come to me when I was speaking to the soul to say, in the morning, first thing you do when you wake up, sit in your angelic form and envision that little child in that scene in childhood. Yeah. And surround that child with Baba's love and ask that child, what did you need that you didn't receive in that moment? And she did that in the morning. And what happened was she said, I had tears and tears of love. She goes, I just felt this child, was filled with so much love. And that was the sign that the healing was complete. And so this was the restart of her journey of releasing a wound of trauma that she'd been carrying for 50 years. And I see that soul now, and that soul is flying, absolutely flying with Baba. Unbelievable amounts of energy, so much love, her connection and experiences in the subtle region, because the level of cleansing has been profound, has been heartfelt, has been deep. And so I think in this way, there is a calling for us to face our deeper past or our distant past, where we've felt and feel the pain of it, in our bodies, in our minds, in our hearts, but somehow we can't release ourselves from that suffering. It seems to persist. And if we're not going through that right now, then that's okay. That's good. But at some point we have to face. It's it's like I remember I was marathon training back in 2007. And no matter how much you train, no matter how much you train, at one point in the race, you're going to reach a wall. Yeah. That is a point where I can't do anymore. Yeah. And that is the point that I feel we need to get to when we are sitting with Baba and, you know, the stuff inside amplifies to such an extent. So I wanted to share this with you today because I felt that in all of in quite a lot of the interactions I'm having with Brahmins, whether they're young in knowledge, whether they're old in knowledge, what I am sensing is that there is a need to know how to deal with the deeper wounds that are erupting in our lives that we have buried, that we have hidden, that we have distracted ourselves away from, but we no longer can because the weakness is being revealed. And of course, if we're able to go through a process like this, then of course that is mercy for the self. And it also gives us the faith that everyone else is going through that. You know, everyone else's weaknesses are being revealed. And so we can see also now at this time that maybe there is more sanskar clashes than ever, you know, and that is because everyone's most extreme sanskars are erupting as well as ours. And so it's a time of great mercy, but I feel it's also a time where Baba's saying, give yourself extra time. Baba's emphasis in the recent Murlis has been on remembrance and to really forge a connection. But remembrance as a point of light is not enough. We have to open our hearts and say to Baba, Baba, I'm ready to face what I need to face. Show me what I need to see. And that is the instruction he is waiting for. Really, I feel it's as simple as that. There is nothing complicated about the healing process. That and sincerity in our efforts, and Baba can take care of the rest. So I wanted to stop there. Often during retreats, there's so much more that we can cover on this particular topic. But I was thinking, let us stop there and maybe take any comments and questions.
Well, that was really great. I enjoyed listening to you and really give me a lot of inspiration to look at my heart more deeply. Let me see if we have any questions or any comments. There was one question, but I don't know how it's related. Before completion, are we going to answer papers in health, wealth, relations, and dot, dot, dot? I don't know how you interpret that.
Maybe I see it as,
Can you
uh,
see that?
yeah, I can see that. I can see that. If the question is, are we going to face test papers in these areas?
Okay.
Then the answer is almost definitely in ways that we need to individually, particularly when we see at the end of the day, if we haven't been able to release our traumas and cleanse our heart at a deeper level, then actually trauma patterns are eventually held in the body. So the body becomes the source of our settlement. And of course, if we have the time to do this before we get to that point, then it will certainly help us. But at the end, we're old souls, and there is always going to be some level of settlement in the body. But, you know, I think there is pain and then there is suffering. And we can experience pain, but still smile. But when pain turns into suffering, that's when we know that we need to face what is in our hearts so that we can, we can release it, forgive ourselves, and understand what we deeply need to realize. And I feel that this is what realization is. No, it's meeting um, whatever, meeting ourselves with truth and being accountable to the truth in our hearts. And if we're able to do that, then I think our settlement is quicker because we're cleansing as well. So yes, test papers are going to come in many different ways. Wherever we've created supports, that's where the test papers are
Yes,
coming, and that's where Maya
yes,
wants to work.
yes, definitely. And another one from the same person. Root causes of suffering are words, I and mine. We need strength or inner power to convert mine into yours, means Baba.
Yes. Yeah, I think this is it. I think often when we own our own karmic story and understand that we have performed actions that have been against the law, that is at the root of our suffering. We understand that, we understand the laws of non-violence, and to hand over that burden to Baba is what renunciation is. It is the most important aspect of being able to be released from it. So when we hand it over, it goes from being my burden to Baba, you take it away and you release me from it. And I feel that Baba's given us the tools to be able to write our life story to Baba. So if you've started this path recently and you haven't written a life story, there's a reason Baba says do this, because it means I can own my karmic story and release whatever burdens I've been holding in my heart of any wrongdoing, and at least lighten from those burdens. And that's the most important thing on this journey, is to lighten from the burdens we carry as a result of the actions we've performed. And that is healing. So completely agree.
Yeah, that's really great. Okay. That person, she's very nice. Continuing. Baba says he has given mirror in the each one's hand to see soul selfie. The key word for clear soul reflection is attention. Otherwise, tension crops. Any views?
Yes. Yes. A nice question.
Like a poem.
Yeah, it is like a poem. I think the word that stands out for me, two words that stand out for me in what you've written is attention, but is also reflection. Reflection is being able to see yourself in detachment. And I think there's a great difference in reflection versus analysis. And when the heart is polluted, then a lot of what we tend to do is move into analysis. So we start to use our minds to discern the situation, but actually, a lot of the thoughts that come are coming from the impurity in our hearts. And so, to really reflect, we have to detach. And that is our responsibility, to detach from the emotion so that you can go to the boss and say, this is what I'm observing inside. Now it's over to you. And so I feel that the practice of reflection is requires the understanding the depth of detachment and what it means to detach emotionally, to detach from the situation, and to observe it without any judgment, and to really own it and to give it to Baba in complete honesty. And then I think there is no tension, because if it's honest, I often feel that the gift of honesty is surrender. So when you have truly been honest in your heart and you have gifted it, Baba takes it, and you will feel light as a result. And so this is also something that's worth checking, because sometimes we can give, and if our giving isn't clean, then Baba cannot take. And if he can't take, we continue to suffer.
Wow, I think this is really so deep, and we have to think about a lot. And a person also thanks a lot for the explanation. And I was just wondering, or assuming that you have faced, since you have been doing this work, inner work, for a long time, and working with other people as well, helping them to cleanse their heart, pain, wounds. So, is everything clear from your heart? Honestly, I was just
It's a really
wondering,
good question. It's
it has to be,
yeah,
go
yeah,
away. And
yeah,
what is your latest effort then afterwards?
yeah. I mean, I think a lot has been cleansed in the heart for sure, but I haven't reached perfection. There are still sanskars, and our sanskars can tell us a lot about what we still carry. And, a lot of these sanskars are connected to old memories, and they only shift if a sanskar is born out of a situation or an action being performed. It can also go as soon as that scene is released from our awareness. The sanskara also goes. And that's why healing is a continuous journey. Whether you've been in Gyan for 3 years or 60 years, you can still be carrying very old patterns that require a lot of attention. Yeah. And if we find ourselves reacting to certain situations, finding heaviness and conflict in certain relationships, then that's actually telling us some of the deeper wounds that exist inside of us. And so I feel for me, it's an ongoing journey, and that's why it's a journey. I think some of us need deeper cleansing than perhaps the eight who came, but maybe they also needed because the level of responsibility they had towards the world was significant compared to us, maybe. But I feel that, at different phases of our spiritual journey, you don't know what's going to come up. I had a sister who's been in Gyan for 35 years, teacher, and she came and we were sat there and just having a conversation with one of the groups, and she was very honest. And she said, it's interesting. I was absolutely fine. And then all of a sudden, there's a karmic account that's come into my life out of nowhere. And it is pulling my attention in such a deep way. And I have to face it. And so she was very openly, kind of expressing the challenge that she was facing. And I think it's the same for us. As Baba said in that passage that I shared, weaknesses have to be revealed. And unless we're doing this on a continual basis of checking and changing, we have to face our hearts on a daily basis. So it's as important as yoga. I think sometimes on the journey we can focus on the routine. I wake up from Vela, tick. I go to Murli, tick. I eat clean food, tick. 7 to 7:30, tick. But have I been honest with myself? That's the number one question I have to ask myself. And we can be following this path for 30, 40 years and never once been honest with ourselves. How can cleansing take place? How can a clean heart take place when we haven't faced our hearts? It's not possible. So I think we all face our hearts based on our capacity, or we ignore our hearts based on our capacity. But at the end of the day, Baba also said there's two queues in front of him. One queue is for the souls who have remembered him with their minds, and another queue is the queue of souls who've remembered him with their hearts. And that closeness that we seek with Baba, that love that we seek with Baba, can only come when the heart is deeply cleansed. And you can feel the difference You can feel the love that comes, the tears of love that flow when we are connected to our own love and we're not blocking this quality of love. And so I feel that, you know, this is something that needs regular and constant attention.
So what you are saying is, I have never thought in this way, I guess. My sanskars, today's sanskars, which are, you know, just coming eruption and related to the old stuff.
100%.
So I have to clean something in order to release my sanskar, because I was just thinking if I focus on my positive original sanskars, the virtues, then automatically they will be cleansed up. But now I understand it's not.
No, that's important because it keeps you connected at the level of soul consciousness, but that doesn't offset the weaknesses and the burdens we carry unless your yoga power has reached a point where, Baba's been talking about volcanic yoga, and that level of love is burning through our past. But I'm not sure, you know, that a lot of us have that capacity. We'd get to karma teeth very quickly otherwise. And so we have to see, face, forgive, let go.
And again, in this situation, when we feel like this, we sit with Baba and open our heart to Baba honestly and tell him, I have this sanskar. Now I just realized I have it and I'm facing this kind of situation. And I don't know what is related with the past. Just
Yeah,
show me.
show me. This is effort, isn't it? This is when Baba like loves to be involved because we're using him in the right way.
It's
And
great.
he wants a more intimate relationship with your heart. And we can only develop intimacy with God when we open our hearts to him. And so I think this is what he craves, and I think what we crave deeply to
I
be.
think this is fantastic. And I'm sure many of us tonight from now on, with the different perspective, we see ourselves, we look at the relationship with Baba and how we can use him for our cleansing process.
Yeah,
That's really great. There is also one thing, cleanliness next to good lines,
godliness.
God
Yeah,
lines, godliness,
yeah,
godliness. Sorry,
yeah,
you read better than me. Happiness is good sign. Thanks, brother, for reminder. And Baba says, light object fly high, light-hearted souls fly to soul world with a higher speed. Let us call mission light flight.
yeah. That's a nice way to end.
Very nice way. Thank you so much, dear brother or sister. I don't know, from one country. And I don't see any other questions. And well, you have explained everything so beautifully. Uh, so, would you like to add anything? We still have some time, and
No,
we
that
will.
there's, this topic is so big, there's so many different directions you can take it in, but I just felt I've shared enough on the stuff that probably we need to pay a lot more attention to, which is the old stuff and how to really start the journey. We don't have to conquer it today, but let's take one step. Baba is pleased with the smallest effort we can make to reveal our hearts to him. So if writing a letter is that, um, then do that. Actually, a couple of little practical tips which I think will help.
Mhm.
Um, I remember a time when I would I've written enough letters to Baba, obviously, and most of us probably have. But there was one letter I'd wrote to Baba when I was dealing with a challenging relationship. And it wasn't to Baba directly, but it was to, I realized that in order to face something, I have to meet it with love. I need to stop being angry at it. I need to stop rejecting it. And only when I meet it with love can I really begin to change that situation or the hold that situation has on me. And I once wrote to the highest form of another soul that I was really being troubled by. And I found that one of the most liberating letters to write, which was just open my heart to whatever I needed to say to the angelic version of that soul. And it changed my relationship completely. So that was one kind of variation to your letter writing that you can experiment with. Another was to actually write a loving letter to your weakness. This is an interesting perspective because often we hand the weakness off to God and Baba, but changing my relationship with the weakness is important as well. And so write a loving letter to your weakness and see the effect that has. It worked for me. It worked for a few others. So I wanted to share that as a practical way. But writing is certainly the vehicle to experiment with that.